Welcome to Season 4 of the K4B Business Podcast.
Quick note before we start, East Tradewinds meets again this Tuesday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern, free to attend. It's a weekly online session where business owners show up, share what they're working on, and make real introductions. Coaching, IT, insurance, podcasting, the room is diverse and the energy is good. Come check it out. Link is in the show notes.
We have a question for you, the listener. Why do you keep second-guessing big decisions even when you know better? Our guest will break down how business owners and leaders can make clearer, more confident decisions by reconnecting logic with the mind-body connection, building real-life trust, and navigating change. Whether that's a career pivot, business shift, or life transition, without burnout or constant doubt. Our guest today is Mary Clavieres. She's an executive advisor, author, and human design expert who helps business owners and leaders navigate change with clarity, confidence, and self-trust. An American living in France for the past 4 years, Mary brings over 15 years of experience working with Fortune 100 companies, combined with nearly a decade as an entrepreneur. With a foundation in engineering and systems thinking, she offers a grounded, strategic lens on leadership, decision-making, blending it seamlessly with mind-body awareness and human design to support growth that's both practical and sustainable. She's the author of Mind-Body Connection Unlocked and the host of the podcast Find Yourself, Change Your Life, where she explores how leaders can make aligned decisions during life's biggest transitions. At the heart of her work and her life are her daughters, who inspire her daily to lead with joy, curiosity, and open heart. Mary, absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much. Our favorite quote or saying?
Hi, Bernie. Thank you for having me. And yes, I do. It is, if you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. And it's by Florence Scovel Shinn.
That sounds like a marketing dodge the bullet moment there. Do you have a tagline that you work with in your business?
Mm-hmm. Inner clarity, outer impact.
So what was the epiphany when you're going, you know what, logic isn't enough by itself. Like, sun rises, it's light outside, the sun sets, it's dark outside. But there's more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a few key times in my life where I really remember this, but a story that I usually tell is from back when I still had my corporate job and I was navigating having young children at home and also traveling, having to be away quite a bit because I would visit manufacturing sites and help them implement ways to have the business run smoother, fix their systems and operations and all of the things. And what started happening was the stress from all of that was catching up with me. So one morning I woke up with my whole mouth in pain. I felt like my teeth were falling out, actually. That's what I tell people. They're like, what? And yeah, I actually felt like my teeth were falling out and I ran to the mirror to kind of check. I was like, okay, everything's in place. Like, what's happening here? And I made an appointment with the dentist, an emergency dental appointment. And he checked it out and he said, everything's fine. He said, but you're grinding your teeth at night. And I was, at the time, I was under so much stress that I was grinding them quite a bit, that then I would wake up in the morning in pain. And that was one of my first aha moments that it's not only about what you're doing day to day, like what you're thinking about or what you think you're doing or how you think you're navigating a situation, because your body can actually tell you, knock, knock, actually, this isn't working.
Wow. So you have an engineering background, which means, it's more right-brained typically, and I could be totally wrong, but typically it's right-brained. And you're combining the left brain, the intuitive side, to kind of come into one. So how did your background in engineering help you view leadership today? Because now you're bringing these two things together. How did that form?
So what it made me realize, I'm really grateful for my engineering background and it's afforded me so many things in my life, right, of experiences and everything. But what I realized as I kind of went through my journey is that it's not only about that. It's not only about the logic and the facts and the figures. And whenever I would go to manufacturing sites and work with the teams, it was really interesting to me to see the mindsets and behaviors around it and what makes certain sites actually change and what makes other places kind of stay stuck in their same process. And so much of it really has to do with leadership. It really does. Like you can have all the systems, but if you don't have the right people and you don't set the right type of culture for what you're looking for, then it's not going to work the same way. And that was my first kind of opening into that work. That then I said, all right, there's so much more here. And then combine it, of course, with my own experiences of the teeth episode and other things that kind of, led me down a path. And I said, actually, yeah, this is not all it. And the real way to the stronger way, the more effective way really to show up is by combining both of these and by understanding process, but also being open to those softer skills and those other types of intelligences that aren't always, directly explained and put out on the map with science and logic.
Yep, moving to another country to kind of, provide, because, when you're used to a certain place and same old, you don't have, you may focus or miss something because there's enough from where you were. But now you're in Europe, right? And being in
Yeah.
France, was that also a contributing factor?
Definitely. I mean, moving to another country and not being fluent, or I should say, like, because I did know French before I moved, although my French has improved a lot since living here, but not having your native language be the language of that country is a incredibly humbling experience. And we could all do better with having those kinds of big life changes just to give us different perspective on things. Right. So moving for me, I mean, it changed things for me professionally. At that time, when we moved, I had already had my own business, but still, I had to set up things differently in France. I had to navigate what that looks like, along with, helping my family set up and getting my girls settled and, all of those other types of things. There's so much change at once. It's not just one area. It's like the whole life happening at once.
And coming out of corporate life, did you find that your experience with the Fortune 100 companies, there were good takeaways that you can come away with? But as a solopreneur, is there things that migrated that actually made it more smooth for you?
Definitely. I definitely see I think one of the strengths of having the corporate experience first is that you see how things can run at a really big scale. And so you kind of have an idea, not saying that it exactly goes that way, but you already have an idea of how something might work versus entrepreneurship. If you've never been in a larger corporation before, I think there's other challenges with like how you get started and how you look at project work and how you tackle some of those things that are needed in a business. I think having the experience with the Fortune 100 companies, you get a lot of those experiences already that support you then.
So you've had a couple big transitions, left corporate, not all at the same time, but left corporate, moved across the ocean, and those are big transitions. And now you're helping people get through their decisions, and make sure that not only you potentially can make an error, but you can also recover from the error. What brought you into that box? Over to you. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
No, that's great. I appreciate the question. It's a great question. Yeah, because over time, I saw really that when we're navigating these big life changes, I'll add another one in there was becoming a mom. That was another big life change. And, when we're navigating these things, it can feel really challenging to figure out what's next or to decide what to do, right? And if you aren't connected with yourself and feeling into what that is in your own way, then it's very easy to spiral and to be overthinking and all of these different things. And what I see happen a lot for people, for leaders in companies or even business owners when they're looking to do a pivot, there's this piece of uncertainty that holds them back. And I really believe that when we know more about how we each individually operate and we stay true to that, we can bring so much more to the world and we can work in such a different way. And so this work is really about helping people to not stay stuck. I've seen so many people stuck in jobs that are not in alignment with them anymore, that are not working for them. They're stressed out, they're burnt out. It's like something needs to change, but it's hard to actually change because they're worried about making the decision or worried about making a mistake. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's take a step back. Like, how do you actually make your decisions? Because once you know that, that's how you can move forward.
The thought that popped into my head, and we make choices all the time. Growing up to past retirement. Is there an ideal window for people to capitalize on your services, or is this universal? I mean, I could be a teenager. I wish, right? I'd be a little less heavier in my mid frame. But is it a level of maturity and age that the light bulb comes on, going, yeah, this isn't working. I got to go talk to Mary. Mary, help me out.
That's a great question. It can be any age. It's never too late. It's never too late to know yourself more. And I would say it's also never too early, right? The interesting thing is though, with kids and as they grow up, kids are really born actually very in tune with their system. So I think about one of my daughters, when I found out what her decision-making style was, it completely changed how I saw everything. I used to tell her, use her words. I would ask her a question. I'd say, use your words. I can't hear you. Because I knew she knew how to speak and I was trying to encourage her to speak more, right? Well, when I learned about these decision-making styles, and I use a tool called Human Design to do it, I learned that actually her style is one where the body responds first through its own movements and noises and sounds. So it might be, and if I ask her yes, no question, she might respond with an uh-huh or uh-uh. And that's coming from her body. That's what her body's meant to do before it gets to her mind to tell me yes or no, right? And so then when I learned that, I started looking at her. And so then I started to ask her questions and look at her at the same time and see, okay, what's her body doing? Because that's actually her true response. What happens is as we grow up, of course, with society, it's natural. We get conditioned by the world around us. So we go to school, we have different teachers, parents, siblings, friends, all the things. We're kind of inputting everyone else's stuff into our system that sometimes our own compass can get lost. And so learning this, I would argue that kids actually know it better. But then when you get to your teen years, by then you've already had a lot going into your system, right? That it can feel like you're lost a little bit or giving into peer pressure or any of those things. So me personally, to answer your question, it's any time is the best time. Like now is the best time to learn your style because it will help you from now throughout the rest of your life.
Interesting. So I get the decision making, whether it's a career choice, do I join a team? Do I stay with a job? Do I apply for a job? When do I exit a company? Is this a good time? And you're looking at different factors. This assumes then that other things are also in play, what your body's doing. But there's usually two moments in life where there is a hormonal change in the body. For the older guys, it's like, the red Corvette, that's the ticket, or some other nefarious silliness. If you're a young lad, the red Mustang, that's nefarious stuff. And then, just driving with abandon. How does the body, one is the mind, but you also know that hormones are floating through. And there could be other stresses or exposure to things like, if you start drinking certain highly caffeinated drinks, well, all of a sudden your body's like, let's go so fast we don't even know what stop looks like again, right? How does that interplay with the whole story? Does that affect decision making?
It does. Well, I would say it mainly affects your awareness, your self-awareness, and then it affects how you operate. And that then in turn impacts how you make decisions, right? So then this goes all into the mind-body connection. And really, at the end of the day, the more we are in tune with how our body operates and understanding what works well for us, what doesn't, the better off we are. And that all impacts our decisions. I would say I don't know, honestly, if this sounds controversial, but I would say any of those big moments where then we find ourselves wanting to burn everything down or having some kind of life crisis, it's usually because we have not been in tune with our mind-body connection this whole time, right? We have not been learning and practicing and making decisions in a way that feels aligned to us. And then over time, it piles up. It's kind of like what happened with me working with the stress in my mouth, right? Things were not going well for a while that I was ignoring until the body said, knock, knock, So I look at it like that for anything that it's really about, and it's an ongoing practice. I'm very much of the mindset of, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. It's really learning to practice and be in tune. Just this morning, I went for a walk. I didn't want to go for a walk. I forced myself out because I know for me personally, walks are a very powerful way to kind of walks in nature, especially just kind of clear my head, reset myself and recalibrate, refocus, all of the things. I didn't want to go, but I said, you know what? I'm going to go. It's time. I haven't been in a few days. The weather's been crappy, whatever. So I went and, not even 5 minutes into my walk, my body was remembering. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better from doing this. And it's a continuous practice. Some days I don't want to go for the walk and I don't go. But then it's about remembering and choosing to go for the walk the next time because it's something that's good for you and that's going to support you.
What are the typical mistakes leaders make? And it almost, as I ask the question, I almost think of, when I craft an email, do I hit send right after typing it, or I give it a little while, reread it going, I forgot a whole word in there, which changes, everything else. Is it timing? Is it too catastrophic, or are there other things that are kind of key issues that make for a boneheaded move on behalf of the one person making the decision?
Well, there's a couple different factors. One, I would say it depends on the size and the level of the decision, right? So is this a decision like of the level of what am I going to eat for dinner? Is it my outfit choice for the day? Is it a haircut level decision? Like, okay, going to get my hair cut If I don't like it, it's going to take some time, but it's going to grow out? Or is it a tattoo level decision? Like, all right, it's a big one. I need to stick with it. So let me make sure, whenever someone is inclined to make a decision when emotions are high, I typically advise against it. That's not the right time. But then it also depends on your decision-making style. Like some people's styles are meant to wait, like clarity comes over time, and other people's it's more in the moment. So there's a few different factors for it.
You just reminded me of a board chairman one time saying, yeah, let's get all the paperwork done right now because everybody's still smiling. And when things go sideways, the paperwork governs next steps so that if you're in a emotive state or hot under the collar.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of things, decision-making styles, and then you talked about human design. So let's start with how many different types of decision-making styles are there? And then how does human design fold into the story?
Yeah. So there are 7 styles, and human design for me is a tool that I use with clients to talk about a number of things, but initially it's always around first your decision making, so how it shows up for you. So there's 7 different styles. They work in a hierarchy depending on your chart. When you put your information in and get your chart, it'll show you your style. On the chart, it's called authority. So you need your birth time, date, and location to get your chart, and then it basically spits you back out this chart and it has a bunch of things listed on it. But one of those things is called authority, and the authority is your decision making style.
There are decision-making styles, and then there's human design. Can you kind of enlighten me on the styles and then how human design kind of folds around this and shapes the end story?
Yes, for sure. So human design is actually the tool that I use that shares these 7 styles. So it's a system. There's a lot of detail that goes into it. But basically what happens is you take your birth time, date, and location, you put them in online, and you get a chart back. And this chart gives you a whole bunch of information. And one of those things is called authority. And your authority is your decision-making style. So these 7 styles work in a hierarchy. And if you have, and so, some of them are connected, it goes a little deeper with each one, right? But basically, like you have one main style and some people might have a secondary style or a lens that they look at their decisions through. But basically, that's the tool that I use. And then there are the 7 styles that then whenever a client comes to me and I get their chart, then I'm able to talk to them about which style is theirs and why, and then more details about how that style works and how it specifically works with your own mind-body connection.
People make decisions, and there's different types of decisions, and and you have the human design. So, what does that look like? And I've already done the test, and you already have. I'm looking at it going, okay, there's a lot of data on the sheet, and what does that all mean? In this case, I think I'm close to what you described as your daughter, in which case I go, Mommy, I'm home.
Yeah, so actually, yes, you have the same decision-making style as my daughter. So I'll share a little bit of an example for you how that could show up. There's a couple of things to it. So the first piece is understanding, knowing your style, learning about it, right? And then there's another piece of how you integrate that into your life and how you use it on a day-to-day basis. So for you, for example, you have sacral decision-making style. You're meant to make decisions in the moment. It's supportive for you if you are asked yes/no questions, because your body will answer more easily to yes versus no instead of open-ended questions. Okay. And then also it's supportive if they're specific, if they're time bound in some way. So I could ask you a question like, Bernie, do you want to travel? And what would you
Yes.
say to that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. And then I say, Bernie, do you want to travel tomorrow and be away from home for the next 8 weeks? So you see there's a difference when you start to get specific with it. And then I could say the same thing. I would say, do you want to travel this summer for a 2-week vacation?
But of course.
So there's a lot of nuance in there of how you actually work with it, right? And that's specific to that style. So you're meant to make your decisions in the moment, but the questions that you're posed need to have specificity to them so that you're really evaluating them from a place of wholeness of the whole situation instead of leaving things out, because then that might make you want to change your mind more often later, right? So there's the piece of knowing it. What I usually tell people is, okay, the first part is learning, getting introduced to your style and learning how it works. And then there's the piece of reflecting on it and seeing, all right, how do I work with that already? Am I in tune with that at all already? Or is this something that now I'm going to try to pay attention to and integrate in some way? And the other piece to it is that even two people with the same style, we'll take your style again for sacral decision-making style. You might have different ways that your body responds to the yes/no questions than someone else. So my daughter, she might have all the uh-huhs and uh-uhs in the world, right? But for you, your body response could be leaning forward if you're interested, leaning backwards, leaning back, kind of crossing your arms if you're not, all these different things. So each person also within that, again, there's that nuance of different things and different body responses for different people. So there's a real self-reflective component to this to say, okay, how does this actually show up for me? And how do I work with it for myself?
Does that stay consistent throughout life? In other words, if you're sacral when you're age 10 and then you get to age 60, you still sacral? Or does that
Yeah.
shift around?
No, it stays the same. I'd say the thing that changes is how you work with it, mainly because of your awareness, your growing awareness to it. So it might feel very different for you in the beginning versus later on. I can say for myself, as I learned and practiced and worked with my style, it got easier over time. I was able to recognize more easily when things were happening and what felt more true to me or not. I look at it as like, exercising a muscle. You grow with it. You keep using it, the muscle grows, you get more used to it. You might fall away for a while. If you fall away and you kind of start to ignore it, you can get it back. You just have to work at it.
So you work with executives or leaders. How do you get them? How do you get their head wrapped around this whole concept? Because it's a different approach than what they probably have seen. Like culturally, there. If you're in the Far East, I might be inferring way too much, but in the Far East, this probably is more easily accepted, for lack of better words. And in the West, it's like we're engineering. Part A goes into Part B through slot C, end of story. Next, carriage return, right? And if you don't know what carriage return, that means enter.
Yeah. So my background is manufacturing and pharmaceuticals. It doesn't get more structured and more kind of routine than that. And what I would say to it is I work with people that are open and curious and ready and willing to do something different. There's going to be people that they might say, oh, this is okay. You put your birth information. This isn't really true. And that's okay. If they believe that, that's okay. I can say from my experience, it works. And I've seen it work over and over again. So I hold on to that, stay grounded in that. And then the people that are interested, I say, try it for yourself. I'm not here to tell you if it'll work for you or not. Me personally, I would say it works, but it's up to each person, right? Because then again, it goes into you practicing and having your self-awareness. I find for me, I mainly work with people that are already ready to change, like they're tired of what's happening and they want something different and they're willing to try something different to do it. Right? Versus doing the same thing over and over again, right? There's that whole definition around insanity and, doing the same thing over again and expecting different results, right? This is for when you want a different result.
Makes sense. It's interesting as you're describing this and as the person starts figuring this out, what's the ripple effect around people around them, whether it's home or business?
I would say there's so many ripple effects, I would say seen and unseen. And this is something else I could talk about all day long, but basically how I believe it works is the more that we are in tune with ourselves, the more that we practice our self-awareness and our self-leadership, I like to call it, the more it benefits everybody because then we are able to stand in our truths and communicate in ways and express what we need. And then that's also a version of leading by example. So you're showing to other people how it could work for them, right? By me modeling this in my house, I show to my husband and my girls, this is a way forward. This is a way that we can move forward and feel good about ourselves and then have it feel good for the rest of the family dynamics. And the same thing from a work perspective, the more that you're leading authentically, true to yourself for the good of all, right? Never with an intention for it to be hurting or harming other people, the better it is, the better tone it sets for the culture, for the relationships, again, communication, all of those things. And I believe that when we understand each other better in that capacity, that also changes the game because I know how my daughter's meant to make decisions. I also know so there's 4 of us in our house and all 4 of us have different decision-making styles, okay? So I know actually for my husband, he's not meant to make decisions in the moment. So if I try to tell him to hurry up, that's not supportive to his dynamics, right? Like his mind-body connection. So understanding that is also building another bridge with people and kind of having this, compassion, deeper understanding for each other, which again, benefits and ripples, I would say, in ways seen and unseen.
When someone goes through the process, how long does it take for that the light bulb to come on fully and, it becomes resonant. In other words, every day, whether do I go for that walk? Why are my teeth grinding? What's up with that?
It really depends. It really depends on each person and how much they're, paying attention to it and how much they want to embrace it and experiment with it and all of the things. I've seen some people, they're like, oh yeah, I've got this. And for some people, I can say it's a little more seamless if they already have some practices that have been supporting them, right? Like if they have a meditation practice or they're already doing other things around their mind-body connection. Maybe it's movement or exercise or, like I said, meditation or journaling, anything that kind of has them in tune with self-awareness. They might find it easier to integrate the information versus someone that's just starting out, brand new to all of it. It might take them a little longer.
Are there any decision styles that get along really well versus others where, like, it's oppositional till you understand what's going on? It, it, it's, if everybody likes the same food, it's good. But if you're cooking something and everybody's going, yeah, no, mom, no.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, there's some that are meant to make decisions in the moment. So it can probably be easier for those people to understand each other versus the people that need time. So, and it just so happens that around half of the population, 50 something percent, I think, has the first decision-making style, which is emotional decision-making style, which means they have to ride the emotional waves and wait till they come to neutral in their body before they make a decision. And those decisions might not ever feel 100%. Like if you have an 80% or more, that means you're good to go. But that's very different than someone that has, like for you with your sacral response. So if you're talking to someone that's not meant to make decisions in the moment and you're like, all right, let's go. And they're like, wait a minute, So I'd say if the timing is more lined up, so like the decision-making styles that there's a couple that make the decision in the moment, that might feel more aligned. The emotional decision-making style, rubs up against that because then it's like, all right, one person might be needing a lot more time before they decide.
Here's kind of an off-the-wall question. Is the decision style culturally driven, or is it like, if you're coming from a certain part of the world, typically it's more easygoing versus, if I'm coming from Jamaica, it's like it comes across chill versus like, I'm on the Autobahn and I'm a Deutsche driver, ich fahren sehr schnell. The one kind of almost bespeaks the sacral and the other one speaks, like, okay.
So I would say, not particularly for each person, they will have their style and those can be from anywhere. They could be born anywhere in the world. And it really depends on the cycles with everything in the sky. And I won't begin to try to say that I know how all of that works, right? But what I will say is that a big part of this is the conditioning piece. So it's the culture that you grow up in definitely impacts how you work with your style and how connected you are or how not connected you are, right, to your body and its response. So certain cultures, I would say for sure, and society and all the things, certain ones are a lot more open to, yes, be in tune with yourself. And other ones can be a lot more closed and saying, why do you need that? And then that all plays into your growth, expansion, or lack thereof, and all the things.
So, Mary, you're located in Europe right now. What part of the universe do you service? Do you service continental Europe? Do you service that part of the hemisphere, this part of the hemisphere? Or are you global?
Technically, I'm global, right? But I mainly work with the US and Europe. North America and Europe, just because too much stretching the time zones gets really tricky.
But you don't want to be up 2 a.m. And if someone wanted to reach you, how do they get a hold of you?
So they can go to my website. It's maryclavier.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram if they want to find me there. And if anyone wants to get their chart, for example, you can get a free human design chart. I also have that on my website.
Excellent. And tell us about your book and your podcast. Book first.
Okay. So book, Mind Body Connection Unlocked. It is all about simple, practical ways that you can tune in and open your mind-body connection. So really practical things you can do. There's reflection prompts, there's activities. I wanted it to be really tangible for people wherever they're starting from to just say, okay, here's some other options. The way I look at all of this work is that things work differently for different people, right? Different tools work better for one person than someone else. So the book is really a compilation of all the different tools and tips and techniques that have helped me. And I say, and also my clients, of course, but then I say, go through them. try them, see which tools work for you. It's tools in a toolkit. Take what resonates, leave the rest. But it's really meant to be a way that you can really incorporate some things into your life. And I look at it as quality over quantity. I'm not going to tell you you have to go meditate in a dark room for an hour. You can if you want to. That's absolutely perfect, if that's what you want to do. But you don't have to. You can take a couple minutes while you're folding laundry and be meditative in your thinking. It's all about your presence with it. So for me, it's really starting to just help people with getting into that mindset about things in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming. We already have so much noise in the world. We don't need to add to our to-do lists, hours worth of things in order to feel like we're, doing something that benefits us. So that's what the book is about.
We find your book.
You can go to maryclaviere.com/book and there's links there. I mean, it's on Amazon. It's on all the different Amazons and wherever you buy books. Barnes & Noble and some of the indie bookshops as well. So it's all on that same link.
Now, over to the podcast part.
Okay, so Find Yourself, Change Your Life. It follows this similar mission, let's say, of practical tips and tools to help someone that's navigating some type of change in their life. So the episodes are focused on different things that people may be going through and, again, different tools to help them with that. I do have a decision-making series on there. So if anyone is interested in learning more about each of the decision-making styles, or you want to grab your chart and then just listen to your particular episode, you can do that too. That's something that I'm really proud of because, again, it's a way to help and support people wherever they are to learn more about what may work best for them.
Mary, I want to say thank you so much for spending time with us and talking about everything, how to make those decisions, understanding where they're coming from, how not to grind your teeth. I hear you. That's just one symptom. The other one's high blood pressure, everything about the heart, etc. So thank you, Mary, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. We really appreciate your time today. So if you haven't engaged it yet, Mary's been in the Fortune 100 companies, made a bold move leaving the U.S. to France, her own business prior to that, and learned about leadership. And it's not just about making smart plans. It's also understanding are you resonating with your plans? Because if you're not, and then, your visit to the dentist or a doctor or other medical care might be coming up.
Everything you heard today is for educational purposes only. It's not professional advice. Before you act on anything, talk to a certified expert in your area. Your accountant, your lawyer, someone who knows your situation. We share perspectives. You make the decisions. Want more? Head over to blog.knack4business.com, packed with practical episodes on AI, marketing, leadership, and growth. No fluff, just the good stuff. Subscribe while you're there. Until next time, keep building.